important that we get a professional into the studio, because I realize that a lot of people have issues from the employer's perspective, from the employee's perspective. So, look, we needed to address it professionally. Running a business is not for the faint-hearted. You know, just when you think that things are going smoothly, life throws you a curveball. Now, imagine waking up one morning to a message from your operations manager. No prior warning, no handover, nothing. Simply saying, please find a new operations manager to continue the work for you. Stay blessed. I mean, that's exactly what happened to one Ghanaian entrepreneur who shared her frustration online. Now, she revealed that not only did her manager walk away without proper notice, but he also claimed he had nothing to hand over, even after eating the company lunch the day before. Look, this story raises some big questions. I mean, of course, how much notice should employers give when leaving a role? Do employers and employees even take professional handovers seriously? Are there even more issues that are untold from just this picture that we captured from this post that our friend shared? Are businesses creating environments where staff feel valued enough to give proper closure before leaving? What is even proper closure? We had some of you share your own experiences with us here on Drive Time. But today we decided that, we need to get a human resource specialist, somebody who actually deals with this on a day-to-day, has learned about it, has studied it, lived it professionally. Commitment and professionalism of an employer and employee. Our very good friend, Madame Vida Assimeng-Kwakye, Mrs. joins us now. Hello, Vida.
Hi, Lexis.
How are you?
Very well.
That's good to hear.
How are you too?
I'm very well too. Thank you for asking. We're so grateful that you made time to come join us in the studio to explore this very, very tumultuous conversation.
Thank you.
At least that's what it turned out to be on Monday. Okay, so I'm sure you saw this post. We shared it with you.
Yes.
And what are your first impressions of it? When you see the post, what comes to mind? First thing.
I thought it was a difficult one and very impromptu. And it's definitely something that will give the employer a shock, because they are totally not prepared for it. Even if the employee is leaving, they did not say a word. Like, they ate the lunch and then the next moment they decided they're leaving. So it's going to be a shock to the employer. And
but I'm sure, if I analyze it, I mean, this might not necessarily be a decision the employer took out of the blue.
Absolutely not. For an employee to decide that they are leaving a particular job or organization, they must have thought about it, and they must have analyzed the pros and cons of it. And my first thought would go back to the contract of employment and, how an employee can exit, because every organization should have that. And when you're employing someone, there's a contract that both of you append your signature to. So the terms in the contract is what has to be used.
Okay.
Either way, if the person is onboarding and exiting, it's all terms in the contract of employment. And either party has a role to play in executing the contract.
Does this post, as we saw it as it is, does it tell you anything about the employer?
It does. Since it's a post that was made by the employer, my assumption is that it's a situation that they were totally not prepared for. And there could be reasons why the employee could decide to leave. And the reasons could be either way. It could be, maybe hypothetically, the working environment might not be one that the employee can cope anymore, or the employee decided to resign on personal grounds, and either of it is a responsibility of both parties, because it takes two to tango.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, from the HR perspective, how unusual is it for an employee to resign without notice or a proper handover?
I think it's resigning immediately, like just sending a text. I think is rather unfortunate and unprofessional. If you have a job and you want to resign, I mean, if you don't want to work with the organization anymore, nobody can hold you.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think the proper thing to do is to give your employer prior notice, adequate notice, as your contract says. And I think that depending on the kind of employment contract he has, at least a month's notice would have been fair.
Would have been fair.
Yes.
Okay. And what does Ghana's labor law say about, notice periods when an employee decides to leave a job?
Okay. The Labor Act has various interpretations to it, but the standard in the Labor Act is a month's notice.
A month's notice,
yes.
Yeah. At least a month's notice.
At least a month's notice.
Right.
An organization can build on this Labor Act and draft a policy.
Right.
But when even the policy is not available, we fall back on the Labor Act, because it's the principal, law that governs labor in Ghana. So a month notice is standard. Yes.
Okay, now let's look at the responsibilities of both parties here. Let's start with the employee. What is the professional, ethical responsibility of an employee when they decide that they want to exit a role?
Okay. So basically, once you sign the employee contract or employee agreement, you should read the entire agreement and know how you can exit. So ethically, if you decide that you want to leave the employ of an organization, you have to tender in your resignation and give prior notice. It's very important. A month's notice to your employer that on so and so date, I'll be exiting the organization. And you are not, really entitled to give them like deep reasons. You can resign on personal grounds. Nobody can hold you.
Yeah.
And then once you tender in your resignation, every property in your possession, by way of the position you serve, that belongs to the company, you have to start gathering them.
Yeah.
And then do your handover notes. This is very important.
Handover notes.
Handover notes.
What do they contain?
The handover notes should contain the status of almost all the actions you are involved in at work. So if there's a project you are working on, like maybe a sales duty, you should be able to tell your employer in the handover notes that, with regards to this project, I've contacted A, B, C, and D.
Okay.
2 people have gotten back to me. Adjo Mansa is still in the process. I've done follow-up. So, we've not had what we want from Adjo. So, I recommend a follow-up. And then if they are, in this case, in this scenario, there are keys with you, keys for the warehouse. You should be able to hand them over. They should all be contained in the handing over notes. So basically, every duty and responsibility that you had during your time of employment, which you are exiting, the handing over should contain requisite information such that when the employer decides that, maybe you are not in, so Adjo Mansa should fill in your role. Adjo Mansa can 70% of the time fit into the role, even if temporarily. And be able to follow up on what you've done. So there will be no gaps or lapses.
That's good. I mean, if the post that we saw is anything to go by, then I would add that make sure you don't eat the company food as well,
I concur. I concur.
Before it comes up on social media. But
Yeah.
now, could situations like this point to something employers might be overlooking? Maybe employee dissatisfaction, burnout, or maybe just weak HR systems?
Yes. As I said, it takes two to tango. So every employer has responsibilities. So does the employee. The employer has to make sure that they provide an enabling environment for the work to flourish and for employees to thrive and grow. So if the environment is toxic, people don't feel heard, channels of communication are not, open, people talk down on employees, and basically when the environment is toxic, employee productivity, I dare say, is zero. Because the employee feels that, me try me tima no kra and so nini. So they won't even go out of their way to do stuff. And when you don't reward, good work, when employees do well, say it. Just like if they do something wrong, you would discipline them. When they do something right and they go above and beyond and excel, you reward that. It doesn't have to be lofty or anything. You could do maybe a star employee of the week, star employee of the month, those things. It serves as a motivation for employees to feel, they belong and make them feel that the environment is favorable enough for them to do better.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to the fact that in some companies, the moment you're called, there is something that bad that you've done, or something that's gone wrong. I mean, you hardly will receive a call and somebody's commending you, especially from your organization, for the work that you've done. And that is very legit as well. Well, if you're listening in, you can send us a WhatsApp message on 055-1111-997. We'd love to know your thoughts, or if you have any questions as well, we'd love to hear from you. Now, I mean, from your practice, you've mentioned some of the issues like a toxic work environment and all of that. What are some of the other reasons why you would have these kinds of abrupt resignations, or people just quit their job or just leave? Is it mostly intrinsic, or is more extrinsic? I mean, probably from your experience.
I see it to be both intrinsic and extrinsic, because sometimes the employee themselves, some employees are really difficult to work with, and I've always maintained that the basic elements in the workplace should be respect. You don't necessarily have to like your colleague to work with them. The fundamental thing is respect for each other.
Right.
Some people can't take dissenting, views. If they are doing something and you say, "Oh, have you thought of it this way?" Or someone brings an idea, "Oh, what do you say?" They won't, and their reaction.
Only their ideas.
Yes. So it's both ways. Sometimes the employer makes the environment toxic, and employees cannot stand it but leave. Sometimes too, the employees themselves make the environment toxic.
Okay.
So it's both ways.
Yeah.
So what I would say is that everyone in the work environment has to be intentional about creating the enabling environment, because even if your boss creates that environment and you, the employee, you are always bringing in toxic behavior, your other colleagues, it's going to affect everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lexis, do I send resignation letter when I'm not given an appointment letter?
Well, that's if you are not given an appointment letter, I would say that if it was by word of mouth, you can go to your boss and or whoever recruited you and say, "Okay, I want to leave this job. I don't want to work with you anymore. Yeah. And then most of the time I would say communicate.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
important. So tell them, oh, I don't want to work here anymore since I don't have a contract of employment or something. But I would always say, be the better person. Just write a resignation.
Yes.
And tell them. And then you add your handover notes. You say, this and this are with me.
Yeah.
These are the things I'm working on. So I'm handing them over.
Richard in Nungwa says, Lexis, at top management level, you cannot just resign. There are rules and regulations governing every institution. I'm a public servant in my company. You have to inform the institution for about a month, or you pay cash and other allowances. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Lexis, my former colleague was fired after working half of her shift. How about employers also giving employees 2 weeks notice? Also, Stephen Damson in the US.
Yeah. You see, in the workplace, I would say that the laws are very clear. You can't fire an employee on the spot, even if there's an issue, or maybe it refers to criminal or something, that they have to take you out of the place. If investigations are going on, the best you can do is probably suspend them whilst you do your investigations. And then once the investigations are concluded, then you can inform the person that, okay, what happened, we've investigated and we find you culpable. So then the termination of employment rules will kick in. Yes.
Okay. I think that some employers also decide to, end the engagement immediately because they fear that if you stay around knowing very well that you will be let off or let go, you might compromise company information and stuff like that.
Yeah, so suspend them. When you suspend an employee, it's documented. The person cannot come to work because they are on suspension.
Yeah.
And if it involves, maybe a criminal investigation and that one, you can't have the person on the employment premises, the employer's premises. Absolutely not. So suspend them.
Okay.
Okay.
Lexis, most employees don't resign formally in Accra because of salary arrears. They hang in there strategically, wait to get their salaries paid, and then leave. Sometimes when you let them know, they don't pay the arrears. Is this true?
That's unprofessional. But, everyone is not the same.
Yeah.
People take issues differently.
Right.
And we all know the right thing to do.
Okay.
But in situations like that, I ask myself, what would a reasonable person do?
Okay.
So, you owe the company. And then you wait. When they pay you, pabam, no journey. That's wrong.
No.
When
the company owes you.
The company owes you.
Yeah.
Yes. So if the company owes you, what did you do? Write to them. Communication is important. Write to them. Write to them and demand your payment.
Okay. Now let's wrap up with a very good piece of advice for both employees and employers. To prevent such situations, and probably if you can also suggest ways that employers can, move on from these kinds of situations.
Okay. So the first thing I saw with this, and I've thought about it extensively, what I would say, or the advice I would give both employers and employees is that when we are recruiting people, reference checks are very important. The people who the employee has put on their resume as references, let's make sure we check. Because if you don't check a situation like this, how would you know? Probably if we had done reference checks to see which people can vouch for this person's character, it plays a huge role, and it will help you make a decision whether or not to proceed with employing them. Person might do well in the interview, but at the end of the day, if the references come, and let's say you do 5 references, 5 no matter how well they did at the interview, I will have concerns recruiting such a person. And then also, employers should make sure that the environment is enabling to allow employees to thrive, and then for the workplace to be, productive. And then Reward productivity, reward it when it doesn't have to be lofty. Reward people who do well, yes, reward people, reward your employees who do well, reward your employees who go above and beyond. You know, because you can't do it all alone as an employer. You need employees, and then we should all work with integrity. It's important. Integrity is important. We can't take it out of, no matter where we work. If we leave that place, we'll go to another place. We'll still work with people.
Yes.
So integrity is something that we cannot do without in the workplace and in our everyday lives.
This is a very, very good one. You've left us on a very good note. Integrity. If you're listening in, well, keep that for today, okay? I'm very grateful, Vida. Thank you. Thank you very, very much for coming by to discuss this very important issue with us. We're grateful for your time.
Thank you.
Yes,
You're
Vida Assimeng-Kwakye is our human resource specialist, and we'll be talking about commitment and professionalism of an employer and an employee here on Drive Time on Joy. I'm Lexis Bill. It's 5 o'clock. James has what's happening in news. James, what's happening?
Yes, Lexis, and